It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, talking real estate as we do all of your property news. We try and do that 7 days a week, and it's not that easy sometimes. Of course, you can hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. And the weekend nearly here once again. It is a Friday, September the 6th today. Now, here's a question for you. Does the length of time that somebody has owned a property make a difference to you when you are buying? Now, it might just be me, but it's something that I'm always really interested in. Now, if you've got a property that has sold 3 times in 10 years, for me, there's a little bit of a doubt, little bit of a red flag, like what's wrong with the property? If you love the property, you're probably going to stay in that property for 10 years. So, 3 sales in 10 years. I kind of look at the dampness situation. That is certainly one to look at. Obviously, pest and noise. Is it a factor that you think about? I'm genuinely interested in your thoughts, and you can join in on the conversation. Let us know. The email address is myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. And the other thing with people buying at the top of the market and trying to recover their money by selling that property when the market has moved downwards in different markets. Now, those properties for me, I think, well, the mindset for that property is at a different price point. And yes, vendors, selling fatigue, that might play a factor, but have to wait a little while before that kind of seeps into the bones of the vendor. But right now, let's sort of turn the torch, the spotlight on a Melbourne suburb of Bentleigh. And we are going to catch up with Ryan Counihan from Woodards Real Estate there in Melbourne. And good morning to you, Ryan. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast. Good to have you on.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So what about that sort of situation? Have you encountered that where somebody's bought at the top of the market, they've said, Ryan, we need your help here. Can you get our money back?
Yeah, we've encountered that a little bit this year. In particular, I've got one coming up in the coming months where they bought in 2021. They are looking to upsize. They're in an apartment at the moment, and we're finding that happening more with your apartments and units, in particular your apartments. But the conversation we have is, now that you're looking at upsizing, if you bought your apartment, let's say, for example, it was $650 in 2021 and it's worth about the same or maybe, $10,000 or $15,000 less, that house that you're upsizing to now, let's say, for example, if it's 1.2, that was maybe circling that 1.3 back in 2021 or even more. So you might be making a loss on the end here, but you're actually making a big gain where you're going to. That's in the upsizing, I suppose, segment for those types of buyers. But we're definitely coming across it at the moment.
How difficult is it to get into the mindset and say, look, you're just, unfortunately, my heart is with you, but unfortunately, you're just not going to get the money back? With our appraisals or when presenting to clients, we keep it very factual based. So looking at recent sales and those sorts of things. So it's not me saying it, it's what the market's saying. Look, I was in a similar spot where I bought around that time as well, where the market was near its peak. So I just say, I explain to them I'm in a similar spot where I'm looking to upsize, but I see it as a great opportunity because this is in particular for people upsizing. It's a great opportunity because you are making a savings on your next purchase. Let's talk about the savings and talk about the property, the suburb, the Bentleigh area of Melbourne. Tell us a little bit about this area. We haven't turned the spotlight on Bentleigh before. People listening from outside of the state, they won't know it. So take it away for us this morning, Ryan. What can you tell us about the area?
Yeah, Bentleigh is a family suburb, so we find a lot of families coming in here just because of its location. So it's still, Bentleigh and Bentleigh East in particular, it's still quite affordable in comparison to, its neighbouring suburbs like Brighton and then Caulfield and those sorts of suburbs, but you're surrounded by parks and schools. So, we find the demographic is a lot of families coming into the area.
What about your first home buyers? Are there many that are moving into Bentleigh, into those apartments?
Yeah, definitely. So in particular, over the last couple of years, with the apartments, we've found the investors have retreated the market a little bit. Almost definitely, most of them are first home buyers that are buying those types of properties.
All right, we'll come back and we'll talk to Ryan in just a moment. We'll find out a little bit more about Bentleigh next.
Every morning from 6 a.m, we bring you the latest real estate news with diverse perspectives from leading industry experts. We deliver the most property podcasts across Australia every week. We help to break down real estate every day to help you better understand the Australian property market. It's time to go back to the Real Estate Vault for this week's property comment.
But you have to bear in mind that pre-COVID, so 2019, in Queensland and other parts of the country, we were looking down the barrel of an absolute disaster. There was almost very, very little demand for new construction. We're very grateful that we're well above those levels at the moment. But if you look at most recent data, which is November 2022, it's about 35,000 building approvals in Queensland. That's still 20% below where we were in November 21. So we are concerned that the demand for new building, for new houses, is going to fall during 2023. And our forecast for this year is for that to happen in terms of commencements.
It's a lot for you to, I guess, articulate, contemplate on how you deal with your members, because this is going to be quite a pressing, quite a trying time for your members, right?
That's right. So there are a lot of builders are still have a pipeline of work that started last year, and they're still dealing with the challenges of getting the skilled labour they need and getting the materials at the prices they want.
You can join the conversation every week on the Real Estate Podcast.
And it's a Real Estate Friday. We are in Bentleigh, finding out about the suburb there with Ryan. Before we do that, let's talk about what I was talking about right at the start, Ryan. This is the length of time that somebody has held on to a property and whether it makes a little bit of a difference when buying. As I mentioned, it certainly makes a difference for me. Different people, different ideas about if something is sold 3 times in 10 years. Do you get those red flags from buyers that say, gee, what's wrong with the property here, Ryan? This has been turning over all the time, too many times in 10 years.
Yeah, it definitely can get asked, and in particular if it's a house where it's probably a longer term for when people are moving in, they're planning on staying. We do see it happen quite regularly with apartments or even some units, not necessarily every 3 years, just with people upsizing. So the one I mentioned earlier, they're upsizing because they've had a little baby and they're planning on having a second, so they just really don't have the space anymore. So it's really a case by case depending on people's circumstances. The question definitely gets asked if it has been sold a number of times in not a long period.
Because I would imagine from a real estate agent's point of view as well, you would think, okay, what is wrong with this property? Because if you're doing the valuation and you've been selected, you need to know everything about that property. And does it make you dig a little bit deeper?
Yeah, that's right. We do it with all of our properties now. We like to know absolutely everything about the property before we put it to the market. So yes, we do like to know everything before going to market, just because it makes the process a lot easier. It's really a case by case with each property as to why it's been sold a number of times. And we're finding with our clients, most of the properties that are having a higher turnover, it's usually due to the personal circumstances, whether it be needing more space because they're a growing family or separation or something like that. It's very irregular for it to be because of the property.
I think all of the properties that I've bought, they have always been held on to for a long period of time. I see that you had one recently. It had been held by the same family across 5 decades, and I think it was the first time on the market since 1967, well before you were born.
Yeah, a long time before I was born. That's right. Yeah, look, it had the one family since the property had been built. That was in Bentleigh East. And as I said earlier, it's a great family suburb. So when people move into a nice family home, they tend to stay for longer.
And you were saying that it's a little bit of a patchy market at the moment. You're finding that good family homes there in Bentleigh, especially between that, $1 to $1.6 million range, they're on the move, particularly the ones that are ready to move into?
Yeah, that's spot on. So anything that needs no money spent, or at least is move-in ready, we're finding good family homes there's a lot of buyers for. Everything else, it's really a case-by-case for each property. The really good family homes in the really good positions that are even a little bit above that are still selling well as well. But we're just finding that little pocket in that price point for good family homes is probably the strongest of all the, I suppose, micro markets at the moment.
Have you got any new stock in terms of developers with these apartments that are being built or have just recently finished being built?
Not the new apartments. And in terms of blocks being sold, we're finding we don't have as many developers that are looking to build apartments. It's more, especially in our area in particular, it's more people or developers looking to build townhouses. But even in saying that, they're being a little bit more picky at the moment with, position and block sizes that they're after.
All right, well, nice to catch up with you this morning, find out a little bit about Bentleigh. Very leafy, I think you were saying.
It is, yeah. Plenty of parks and plenty of schools in Bentleigh and Bentleigh East, yeah.
Well, enjoy your weekend and thank you so much for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast.
No dramas. Thank you for having me.
Every morning from 6 a.m. across Australia, we deliver you the latest property news, commentary and predictions from Perth to Cairns and from Melbourne to Brisbane, 7 days a week, only on the Real Estate Podcast.
And it was earlier in the year that Mackay was highlighted as one of the best regions nationally to invest. So, the investors take notice of that.
6 weeks ago, we've seen another lift. So probably 50% of our inquiry at the moment is investors from interstate. Probably 50 to 60% of our offers are from investors from interstate.
The property currently owned by an American-British producer who is the stepson of C.S. Lewis. So this is a little bit of famous activity going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was sent an email about 6 months ago from his family just to have a conversation. And we've been working on it for the last 6 months to, bring it to fruition. It's a 7-minute boat ride off the mainland. It is a genuine slice of paradise. It's incredible.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.